Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I thought I would go ahead and tell you guys the truth on something, because there's some misconceptions out there because a lot of the trolling and jokes I make about guys who train for aesthetics. And, not everyone's going to watch this video, so I'm going to be able to continue to troll these people and kind of get some enjoyment out of the rise I get out of them. But the reality is I'm really not against guys who train for aesthetics. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skill on my crafting a little bit. Let me explain to you guys why I say what I say. And it's multifold in nature. It's actually partially it is me having fun and being a troll in some cases, because I do like getting a rise out of people. You guys have probably figured that out. I can be a bit of an asshole. All right, I can be sometimes. But it's also intended to help more people than I get a rise out of. And a lot of this is multifold in nature. And yes, I understand most people who train are not training for a sport. And many people who train, even if they want to be more athletic, let's be honest, 90% of people who lift weights, one of their goals is to actually look better when they're naked. I mean, we can be honest about that. Most people care about that. That is usually one of the reasons for which people train. And for some people, it's the only reason they train, at least when they start. And as you become more mature and fitness and training become more of your lifestyle, oftentimes you move away from that, even if it's something that you kind of stick with for a bit. But part of it is that I've seen a lot of really negative things in the bodybuilding world. And yeah, I did used to bodybuild. I'll go ahead and admit that. Some people don't realize that. I did used to be a bodybuilder a very, very long time ago. I saw a lot of really dark, negative things around that world, and I walked away from it. And what I want to get to here is that actually the excessive focus on aesthetics for a lot of guys ends up being detrimental. And focusing on it actually can be detrimental towards their actual goal of achieving the aesthetics they want. And that's part of the problem too, is that a lot of the training that comes out of that world only works for people blasting a bunch of tren who have pretty good genetics. It's not going to work for guys who don't. And so oftentimes the actual training approaches being used are going to make it more difficult for you to reach your goals. Now, part of the thing is I do make the jokes about the gay stuff. Oh, if you train purely for aesthetics, you're in the closet, blah, blah, blah. I do that to get a rise out of people, because the truth is there is a massive low-down lifestyle component to the whole bodybuilding and aesthetics world. It's absolutely there. Absolutely there. I've seen it. I've known dudes who did the G for P thing personally over the years. I've seen this, guys. I'm 41 years old. I've been around the iron game a really, really long time. I've seen this stuff, and I've seen lots of dudes who talk about, oh, I lift weights to chase pussy, and they're some dude's rent boy. Okay, I've met some of these guys in my life. I knew a guy named Scott years ago. He talked about it. He used gear and trained for aesthetics and bodybuilder training and everything. And he lived with an older rich dude who came to the gym and worked out with him. And I'd ask him one day, what do you do for a living? He was like, oh, I help him around his house. He was his rent boy, but talked about, I train for pussy, bro. I've seen all this. I've seen a lot of this, but that was just one example. And I'm not saying every guy who does bodybuilding is like that. We've all met the dude with 3 or 4 kids with a banging hot wife who's a successful bodybuilder. Okay, we've all met those guys. They are out there. Okay, and you don't knock your banging hot wife up 4 times if you're gay. Okay, that's real spit right there. You don't do that. You don't marry a hot chick and crank out kids all day long. So we've all met those guys, but they're the exception. They're not the norm. You see a lot of dysfunction within that community, and that's a big part of it. The other thing is that we do see a lot of guys who get drawn into it, in some cases because maybe their culture or religious belief doesn't allow for it, and so they get attracted into the bodybuilding world as their way for their outlet for that, and a lot of them really are in the closet. And we've all met enough of those guys who are obsessed with it, obsessed with their aesthetics and obsessed with the aesthetics of other guys, and they never seem to have a girlfriend. They're never married, anything like that, but while pretending to be straight. All right, we see a lot of it, and when I make the jokes, it's intended to get a rise out of certain people. Is that right? Am I picking on maybe some people who are a bit vulnerable? Probably. But it's funny for me to see their reactions, because when I do that, people come in the comments, oh, you're fat, you're hating because you can't get aesthetic. And it's hilarious because I'm a middle-aged dude. I really don't give a shit. I really don't. For me, the only purpose to getting more aesthetic would be to earn money. That's it. I don't see any point besides making money. I don't get it outside of that. But again, that just has to do with my own life experiences, my age, my outlook on life. That may not be true for you. A lot of you may want to get more aesthetic, and that's cool, that's fine. But I enjoy getting a rise out of those people because it's so hilarious. Watch them fight with their own internal conflicts. And those are the guys who get offended. Like the very guys who jump up and make ad hominem attacks and get angry when you say that. That's your dude right there. Because the dudes who do it, who are comfortable with who they are, they don't get offended when you say that. They don't care. They maybe roll their eyes, they maybe laugh, but they don't get outraged. That righteous indignation, that's the dead giveaway every time. And it's funny to see it because you can watch it come out in people. And that's my trolling. But the reality is I also do that so that people step back and assess it and they don't take this aesthetics thing so serious, because that's the other end of it. In my experience, when people get obsessed with it, that's when we see the eating disorders. That's when we see guys start abusing large amounts of drugs, right? We see extremely self-destructive behavior when people start chasing an unobtainable, unsustainable aesthetic. When they become obsessed, I've seen it absolutely harm people. I have seen people get hurt by this firsthand, people I've known, I've watched it happen. So part of that is to kind of take the piss a little bit, to use a British term, because I used to live in the UK. It's taking the piss so that guys understand, hey, maybe this isn't so serious. Maybe I need to step back and reel this in so that I don't hurt myself. Okay? That is intended also not just to get a rise out of people by trolling, but also to make people understand that this aesthetics thing isn't that serious. It really isn't. It's not important enough to destroy your health over. Dieting down to 7% body fat will harm you, even natural. Abusing trenbolone will harm you. And you've got to understand that. And that helps for some people at least put that in perspective. Now back to the other point. The reason I say to guys, don't worry about it so much, just get strong, is because the reality is, for most guys, who want to stay natural and they want to just reach their potential and they want to be aesthetic, you know, all you really have to do, spend the next 3 or 4 years getting really strong on all the basic exercises. And I don't mean squat, bench, and deadlift. Those are good ones to get strong on. But, you know, also overhead pressing, weighted chin-ups, right? Exercises like that. Exercises that'll bring up your whole shoulder girdle, your biceps, and bring your back up in proportion. All those big movements that will put muscle on you. All those movements that will make your shoulders wider. Those movements that will thicken you up. Because if most guys do that and they focus on strength and just get as strong as they possibly can over the next few years, and then they diet down their desired body fat, maybe throw in a few isolation movements for their weak points. You know, if their biceps aren't getting big enough in proportion from weighted chin-ups, all right, fine, do some curls. If you're strict pressing 200 pounds, pausing on your chest and overhead pressing 200 pounds, or you're doing sets of 7 or 8 with 160 pounds, and your shoulders just aren't capped enough, okay, do some lateral raises. I mean, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. You do that, diet down to your desired body fat, you're probably going to reach about 90 to 95% of your potential aesthetics for your structure. Okay? And the problem is that all this other training, all this excessive fluff and pump really isn't going to get you to your goal. It's really not. And that's kind of the point. And that in the long term, you're going to be more athletic, you're going to be fit, you're going to be stronger, you're going to be able to do other things. You're going to not only reach your size potential faster, and then you can shore your aesthetics up. You can just prioritize weak points. All right, that's that simple. It really is. But you're going to have so much more potential in the long term because you will have built a solid foundation, top to bottom, that you'll be able to branch into other things. Because you know what? I can tell you guys right now, if you make training a lifelong endeavor, I promise you, at least half of you who do that, you're going to want to do other things besides just look good naked eventually. You may want to go compete in something. You may want to get involved in something more athletic. And the better base you build, the more opportunities it's going to give you in the long term to branch into other things. So I'm not telling people, don't care about your aesthetics at all. I'm not saying that. Just saying the way that most people are going about it only works for genetically gifted guys on drugs. So most of you guys out there, you're going to really shortchange yourself doing those things instead of focusing on the basics and just getting strong top to bottom, right? For your entire body, and then shoring up your weak points and dieting down afterwards. Get down to the body fat you want to get to. But if you're chasing the aesthetics thing from day one, you're going to get there a lot slower if you make that the focus. If you're going to sit in there, man, I've got to stay 10% body fat. Man, I've got to do all these isolation moves. You're never going to reach your goal that way. And even Arnold Schwarzenegger said that. Remember when he said you can't chisel a pebble? That's the guys he was talking to. And even he understood that. As a guy who abused drugs and was genetically gifted. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.